Good morning. Today's topic is measurement of speed, acceleration, displacement measurements. Okay. So these three topics we are going to deal today. Measurement of speed, measurement of acceleration, and measurement of displacement. Right. So in the previous class, we have seen measurement of liquid level. Measurement of liquid level. Different methods in measuring a liquid level. Right. So let us move on to measurement of displacement. Already I have covered this topic while I am telling some examples of capacitive transducers. Okay, so just let us quickly revise the concepts which we have already discussed on these uh, measurements. Okay, in the previous unit, I have told you different types of transducers and where they are used. Okay, so in this unit, we are going to deal or we are going to study about the different methods of measuring these physical parameters by using above instruments. Okay, in the previous unit, we have covered capacitive, inductive, resistive transducers, photoelectric, piezoelectric, photovoltaic, and photoresistive transducers, and thermistors, thermocouples, RTDs. Okay, all these concepts we have discussed in the previous units. Okay, while I am telling you about the working of different instruments, at the same time, I have told you where they are used and how they are used. Okay, so in this unit, we're going to study how the above said instruments are used in industries to measure the parameters like speed, acceleration, measurement, displacement, velocity, acceleration, temperature, torque, vibration, rotation, liquid level, pH, conductivity, etc., 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 flow, measurement of flow, etc., etc. So now in this unit, in this chapter, we're going to study about the instruments which are used to measure these parameters. Okay, so let us move on to the concepts now. Measurement of displacement. So the measurement of displacement uses different types of transducers. Different types of transducers. Okay, some of them are contact type, and some instruments are proximity type. So what do you mean proximity sensors or proximity instruments means that these instruments doesn't be in contact with the input. Okay, so for example, I want to measure speed. You are using tachometer. We are using tachometer. In the labs, you are using tachometer. Okay, digital tachometer. This digital tachometer have a spindle here. Spindle. Okay, these digital tachometers have spindle. So you are inserting the spindle. You are inserting the spindle onto the rotor whose speed you want to measure. Whose speed you want to measure. Okay. So so the instrument is in contact with the source of input. Okay. There are some instruments which doesn't make contact with the source of input. It doesn't make contact with the source of inputs. Right? Instead, instead, they give accurate output. They give accurate output. Okay. So those instruments are called proximity instruments or simply proximity sensors. Right? So let us move on to the concepts now. For measurement of displacement, here I am telling you about capacitance register. Capacitance C equal to epsilon A by D. Epsilon A by D. Capacitor transducers, already we have covered this topic while we are discussing about measurement of liquid level. Okay, capacitor transducers are used much more to measure displacement and also liquid level, right? Rather than displacement, rather than displacement, measurement of liquid level uses capacitor transducers highly in the industries. Okay, C equal to epsilon A by T. So the capacitance will be varied with the change in dielectric material or change in overlapping area of plates or changing distance between the two plates. So here this is a fixed plate and this is a movable plate. This is a fixed plate and this is a movable plate. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm attaching this movable plate to whose displacement I want to measure. Okay, such that if the displacement is towards right side, then distance between two plates will increase. If the displacement is towards the first plate, or the displacement is towards left side, then in this example, this second plate moves towards first plate, fixed plate. Means the mobile plate move towards the fixed plate, so that distance will be decreased. So if distance decreases, distance between two plates decreases. If distance between two plates decreases, then capacitance automatically increases. Automatically increases. If distance between two plates decreases, capacitance increases. If distance between two plates increases, then capacitance decreases. Then capacitance decreases. Okay. So I may use this capacitor sensor as one arm of a bit circuit, such that, let us suppose I'm using a bit circuit like this. This is one resistor in series in parallel with the capacitor. This another resistor here. There is another resistor here. Here I'm using a resistor in series with capacitor, let us suppose, right? And this is the bit circuit now. This is the meter. This is the meter. So this impedance I call Z1. This impedance I call it Z2. This impedance I call it Z3. This impedance I call it Z4. So let us suppose this capacitor is this capacitor. Okay. The capacitor which I am using to measure displacement is this capacitor. So that bridge is not balanced. Previously, when I don't apply any displacement here, then the bridge will be balanced. Therefore, output is 0. Why? Because Z1, Z4 equal to Z2, Z3. Z2, Z3. The balance condition is satisfied here previously. Okay. But now what I am doing is the displacement is given to a sensor. The displacement is given to a sensor such that impedance of arm Z4, impedance of impedance Z4 of this arm of resistor in series with capacitor varies such that bridge doesn't be within balance, which is not balanced, and I will get output here. The output current is a measure of displacement, gives me amount of displacement. Output current gives me amount of displacement. Okay, the same principle I can use by changing capacitance of this bit circuit by varying in overlapping area of plates and also epsilon. Okay, let us suppose now I am using overlapping plates. Okay, change in overlapping plates. So here, so I'm erasing this all the stuff, right? Because already this bit circuit is printed in your brain such that I can tell easily. Okay, so this is area variation. Okay, so this is top plate is fixed plate and bottom plate is a movable plate. Or suppose bottom plate is fixed plate and top plate is movable plate. Or top plate is movable plate. Okay. Previously, the previously first plate and second plate means bottom plate and top plate are in parallel to each other. Means these two plates overlap each other. These two plates overlap each other. Therefore, therefore, C equal to epsilon A by D valid. C equal to epsilon A by D is valid. I have capacitance value, some capacitance value. Even now, the capacitance C equal to epsilon A by D is valid, but the capacitance value decreases or increases depends upon this overlapping area of plates. Since I am giving displacement to this movable plate, the top plate is the movable plate. The top plate is the movable plate. Since top plate is a movable plate, then what will happen? If the displacement is towards this side, then the second plate, this top plate, this movable plate move towards direction of displacement. If displacement is towards this side, then this movable plate move towards right side. Okay, so that the overlapping area is here now reduced. This is the overlapping area now. Since overlapping area is reduced, capacitance C is reduced, bits will become unbalanced. Z1, Z4 is not equal to Z2, Z3. I will get a current I in the meter in the bridge. So the current is proportional to, or current is a measure of displacement applied here. Okay, and I can vary overlapping area also. Oh, sorry, dielectric material also. See here, let us take, this is a fixed plate, this second fixed plate. In between, I am placing a dielectric material. Now I am giving displacement to this dielectric material. If displacement is towards right side, then what will happen? This dielectric material will move towards right side. Now the dielectric material is moved like this. Okay, this is the dielectric material now. So up to this point, okay, up to this point means from here to here, between the two plates, still it acts as a capacitor. Okay, air acts as dielectric material. Therefore, I call it C1. From this point, I will take another color. From this point to this point, okay, the dielectric material is there. I call it C2. C1 equal to epsilon naught A by D. C2 becomes now it becomes epsilon naught epsilon R A by D. Epsilon naught epsilon R A by D. So now total capacitance is equal to C1 C2 by C1 plus C2. Total capacitance is equal to C1 C2 by C1 plus C2. Okay. So I may change capacitance by varying epsilon or overlapping area and also distance between two plates. Distance between two plates. Likewise, I will measure displacement by using capacitance transducer. Now moving to inductive. Already we have told several times about this LVDT. It's an excellent transducer to measure displacement. So this is the core. This is the core, right? So I'm giving displacement to core. Okay. So I'll give displacement to core here, or the core is attached to a material whose displacement I want to measure. Okay. Previously, when I am not giving any input, the core is at the center of the windings, such that flux linkage is same here and here. So this I call secondary one. This I call secondary two. Number of windings in secondary one must be equal to number of windings in secondary two. The thickness of windings in secondary one must be equal to thickness of windings in secondary two. Therefore, I will get the same output. So Vs1 equal to Vs2. Since the flux is cutting the conductor, I will get an EMF. Output voltage I will get. This voltage I call as Vs1. This voltage I call Vs2. So output V0 equal to Vs1 minus Vs2. Vs1 minus Vs2. Why? Because during positive half cycle of input, okay, this is the direction of current through Vs1, and this is direction of current through Vs2. Okay, positive to negative. So if you see here, both currents are equal and opposite. Both currents are equal and opposite. It goes down, it comes up. Therefore, Vs1 minus Vs2 will get at the output V0. Since Vs1 equal to Vs2, right, I will get 0 volts at the output if there is no displacement here. And when I give some input displacement to the core, then core moves towards upside. For example, if the displacement is towards top side, then the core move towards top side, such that more flux linkage will be at Vs1, and at Vs2, very small amount of flux will cut the conductor Vs2, secondary 2. Okay, so Vs1 is greater than Vs2. Vs1 is greater than Vs2 now. Why? Because more flux is cutting in the conductor at secondary 1, and less amount of flux is cutting secondary 2. So Vs1 is more than Vs2. Therefore, output voltage V0 equal to Vs1 minus Vs2 gives me some positive value. This positive sign represents direction of displacement, and the value here gives me the amount of displacement. The positive sign tells me direction of displacement, and magnitude gives information about amount of displacement. Okay. Right. So, for example, now if the displacement is towards bottom side, then core moves towards bottom side, such that the flux linkage is more at secondary 2, and very less amount of flux will cut the conductor Vs1, such that Vs2 is more than Vs1. Then V2 minus V2 gives me some negative value. This negative sign represents my direction of displacement. The magnitude of this value, the magnitude of this output tells me amount of displacement. Okay. And potentiometric type. We also discussed this in our previous classes. Okay. So here is a potentiometer. So this is a mobile contact called wiper. Okay. And now I'm giving displacement to the wiper here such that this wiper moves towards the displacement depending upon the magnitude of displacement. So if the wiper moves, then what will happen means some resistance is added across the supply. So there will be a current drop and voltage drop also present here. Output voltage is a measure of displacement. Very simple. We can use it there. We can use this potentiometric type directly or in conjunction with the bridge circuit. Right? So now moving towards measurement of speed. Measurement of speed is the most important parameter in industries which everyone must keep in track with. Why? Because in industries there are so many motors, turbines rotating all the way. So many times we need motors or pumps to vary their speed depending upon the application. In power plant engineering, you might have seen the basic boiler design in which we use primary air fans, secondary air fans, and induced draft fan. Okay, PFN, primary air fan, FD fan, forced draft fan, and ID fan, induced draft fan. Depending on the speed of these motors, the boiler parameters have to be controlled. So many times we need to measure speed. So there are some direct methods to measure speed and also there are some indirect methods to measure speed. Right? Here we're using here AC tachometer type speed measuring system. Okay, AC tachometer. Here I want to measure speed. So this is a moving shaft which is moving in a field of permanent magnet. So here the magnetic flux lines are being cut with this conductor so that I will get output. Right? Since this is AC output and the meters we are using are the PMMC which we are using as a meter to measure this output will measure only DC components. PMMC is not designed to measure AC, voltage or currents. So what we have to do is, okay, we need to convert this AC output into DC. For that reason, I'm using here a bridge rectifier, which converts AC into pulsating DC. And here, after rectification, I'm using a capacitor transducer. I'm using a capacitor. I'm using capacitor to smoothen the ripples. Why? Because rectifier circuit gives me only pulsating DC, not AC. Not DC. It gives me only pulsating DC. means output consists of both AC components and DC components. So I need to measure only DC, not AC. Okay, I have to convert this AC into DC now. So what I will do is I will suppress the AC component present in the output such that DC component and the output will rise. For this for this type of suppressing AC components, to suppress the AC components present in the ripple at the output of the split rectifier circuit, I'm using here a smoothing circuit. It may be capacitor filter or it may be inductive filter. If I use capacitor filter, then definitely I have to place this capacitor in parallel with load. Okay, I have to use this in parallel with load. If I am using inductive filter, definitely, definitely, I have to use inductor in series with load. Okay, of course, here the shown one is wrong, I think. This capacitor must place in parallel with the load. Okay, or I have to use here inductive filter, right? And moreover, and moreover, I can use precision filter or L-section filters to smooth the ripples. Such that I will get only DC at the output. The amount of DC is proportional to speed. Higher the amount of DC here, higher the speed is. Generally, we use 4 to 20 milliamp approximation to measure speed. 4 to 20 milliamp approximation to measure speed for automation. 20 milliamp means the motor is rotating at rated speed. Okay, if output I got is 4 milliamps, then the motor is not rotating. The speed is 0. If speed is 100%, I will get 20 milliamps. I get 20 milliamps at the output of circuit. Okay, so 420 milliamps corresponds to total range of the instrument, such that 4 milliamps I got means 0% input, 20 milliamps means 100% input, 100% speed, right? 8 milliamps means 25% of rated speed, 12 milliamps means 50% of rated speed, 16 milliamps I got means 75% of rated speed. Likewise, okay. So the graph must be linear in this range of 420 milliamps, right? Next, we are moving on to DC tachometer. DC tachometer, right? So here I am placing the rotor in magnetic field such that the rotor rotates, a magnetic flux lines cuts the conductor, then I will get output. I am I am using here brush links. I'm using here brush links, a commutator to collect the output, and it is measured through a PMMC meter. The mechanism is same for AC tachometer and also for DC tachometer, right? So this is non-contact type. This is non-contact type measurement of speed. Okay, this is non-contact type measurement of speed here. Okay, so for example, I want to measure speed of this rotor. This rotor is moving like this. Okay, and I want to measure speed. Many a times we have to place instrument onto the rotor to measure the speed. But there is one problem here. That is, there exists a loading effect. If we place, if we make instrument in contact with the rotor, then it acts as a load. So there are some loading effects. In order to overcome this, we are using non-contact type measurements. Okay, non-contact type measurements we are using here. Okay, so here what I'm doing is this rotor, whose speed I want to measure. So these are tooths of a rotor. That's what it's called, toothed rotor. I'm placing a magnetic pickup here. Magnetic pickup here, right? And these are conductors. I'm attaching conductor to the transformer circuit and this electronic counter. So there are flux lines. There are flux lines from north to south. So these are flux lines cutting the magnet. From flux lines emerging from north to south. Emerging from north to south. Okay. Emerging from north to south. Right. And now, for example, if in this place, due to rotation of this rotor, if the tooth of rotor comes in this place, then what will happen? Then what will happen? The conductor is cutting the flux, so they will get EMF. When the rotor moves away, or the tooth, the teeth, the teeth, uh, the teeth moves away, and if in this place, if the gap comes, then then this flux is not interrupted with the rotor, such that the magnetic flux lines move from north to south and the conductor is not cutting any flux. I will get output 0. When again the tooth comes between in the middle of this air gap, then again this conductor cuts the flux. When air gap comes, there is no conductor to cut the flux. Therefore, I will get output like this: high, low, high, low, high, low voltage, high voltage, low voltage, like this. Okay, the frequency of this output gives me the speed of the rotor. Gives me the speed of rotor. This is non-contact type transducer. Okay, so there are no loading effects. Output is accurate and also sensitive. They is highly sensitive. Okay, there are some effects also in using this instrument because there are some temperature effects on the magnet. Okay, there are some temperature effects on the magnet. So if I suppress the effect with proper shielding, this gives very accurate output. It gives very accurate output. Okay, to measure speed, there are some other methods. Let us suppose, right? This is a rotor. This is a rotor whose speed I want to measure. This is a rotor whose speed I want to measure. Oh, sorry. So let us suppose this is a rotor shaft. This is a shaft of a rotor whose speed I want to measure. So what I'm doing is I'm placing a disc over this. I'm placing disc over this. Lightweight disc. lightweight sheet, and there are some holes, here placed at a regular space. Okay, means the spacing between the holes is constant. Okay, the spacing between the holes is constant, right? Here I am placing light source. I am placing a light source. Okay, and I am placing a light source. This light source is a laser light source. This light source is a laser light source. This is a laser light source. Why? Because laser has high directionality. Laser possesses high directionality. Okay, monochromaticity, high intensity. So I'm using a laser. At the same height, I'm using a detector. At the same height, I'm placing a detector. This is light detector. This is light detector. Means if the light falls on this detector, then output will be high. If no light falls on the detector, then output is low. Output is low. Okay. So what will happen means if the shaft is rotating, then this disc is attached to the shaft here. So disc also rotates. Disc also rotates in accordance with the shaft. So disc also rotates with the same speed as shaft. It's a very lightweight disc, so that there will be no loading effect on the instrument or on the shaft. Okay, so here when the hole comes in between light source, this is light detector. Okay, the if the hole comes between light source and light detector, total light falls on the detector through the hole, so output will be high. So as this disc is rotating, hole moves away, and now the space comes in between the shaft and sorry. Now the space comes in between light source and light detector. So as the disc is made of a material which is opaque, so it doesn't transmit any light on the light detector. So at the output, I'll get low voltage. And again, as the shaft is rotating, then what will happen? Disc also rotates. So that the hole goes away. The space goes away, and again hole comes in between light source and light detector. So again, I will get high voltage. So low voltage, high voltage, low voltage, high voltage. Likewise I will get. Okay. And now the frequency of pulses gives me the value of speed. Frequency of pulses gives me the value of speed. Okay. And now let us move on to measurement of acceleration. Measurement of acceleration. The instruments which are used to measure acceleration are called accelerometers. Right? The instrument which is used to measure acceleration are called accelerometers. Okay, this is not a sensor amount, and it is mentioned as sensor here in this diagram. It's not a sensor actually. It's not a sensor actually. So what is acceleration? If x is the displacement, then rate of change of displacement with respect to time gives me velocity. Rate of change of velocity gives me acceleration. If x is the displacement, then dx by dt gives me the value for velocity. Okay, dx by dt gives me velocity. So rate of change of velocity gives me acceleration. Or simply I can say acceleration is equal to dv by dt. V means dx by dt. Therefore, acceleration equal to d square v by dx square. D square v by dx square. D square v by dx square is the acceleration. Okay. Now, see here, this is a mass, seismic mass. This is mass, this is a spring, and this is a dash pot. This is a dash pot, right? This is a pointer attached to the mass element, and the pointer is attached to the wiper of a potentiometer. Wiper of a potentiometer. I'm taking output here. So the mass, spring, dashpot are arranged such that all are placed in a housing. This housing. This is housing. Okay. So I am attaching this housing to the instrument whose acceleration I want to measure. Okay. The housing is attached to a object whose acceleration I want to measure. So due to the sudden acceleration, jerk will put on the housing such that this mass element due to jerk will vibrate such that the mass element is attached to spring and dashpot, so that the damping of mass element is not that much more. Okay, to slowly move according to the acceleration which I have given to the housing. So if mass moves, the displacement of this mass is connected to potentiometer wiper. So the potentiometer wiper will move, and over the output voltage. The output voltage is a measure of acceleration applied. Very simple. Okay. Next, coming to piezoelectric accelerometers. Piezoelectric accelerometer. Okay, this is the arrangement for piezoelectric accelerometer. Right? This is a housing. This is a housing. Okay. In the housing, I am placing a piezoelectric crystal. It may be made of different materials like quartz, rochelle salt, tourmaline, lithium hydrogen phosphate, lithium hydrogen sulfate, dipotassium tartarate, ceramics A, and ceramics B. There are so many materials to use to construct this piezoelectric material crystal. And quartz is a natural crystal. It doesn't possess any piezoelectric properties of its own unless it is purified in aqua solutions. Other crystals are man-made crystals. They are grown in aqua solutions. Okay, they are grown in aqua solutions. Right. So I'm placing this is seismic mass. This is seismic mass. Right. And now this is a housing. And here I have to place a uh, what do you call this spring. I have to place here. This is spring here. This is spring. This is spring. So here I'm applying acceleration onto the housing so that a jerk will be placed on this mass element so that the piezoelectric crystal gets some stress. Therefore, the piezoelectric crystal will deform. The structure of piezoelectric crystal will deform. So I'll get output voltage. Output voltage is V naught equal to Q by C. Okay. So the amount of output which I get is proportional to the rate of deformation that crystal had gone through. And that the rate of deformation is is proportional to the acceleration applied. So that output voltage is a measure of acceleration applied. And I have to take this output voltage by using some ohmic contacts. Okay, they are ohmic contacts. So this is a metal. This is a metal. In between there is a crystal. So it acts as a capacitor. Two parallel plates in between crystallized dielectric material. So likewise the output voltage came here. Output voltage V not equal to Q by C. Okay, this is what how it came. Okay, so the amount of charge is proportional to amount of deformation. Amount of deformation is proportional to amount of acceleration, and output voltage is equal to Q by C. That's that output voltage is a measure of acceleration now. Okay, this is called piezoelectric accelerometer, right? Piezoelectric accelerometer. The spring is used here to place this crystal in its original position when there is no input. Okay. Now let us move on to LVDT type accelerometer. LVDT type accelerometer. Okay, they are not DC voltages; these are AC voltages. Actually, right? So this is a casing in which I am placing here an LVDT. See here, the primary and secondary coils are placed the uh, sh- in the housing, and the core is suspended. The core is suspended such that such that the core is at the center of LVDT. Therefore, due to flux linkage, due to flux linkage, I will get primary voltage, secondary voltage same, and output equal to Vs1 minus Vs2. Vs1 minus Vs2. I will get it as output. Output equal to Vs1 minus Vs2. Okay. So now, for example, if due to applied acceleration, the housing will move, means the jerk is created at the housing, so that the core will move. When core moves, what will happen here? When core moves, flux linkage is not proper. Either secondary winding 1 may receive high flux, or secondary 2 may receive high flux. Due to this, output voltage varies. Due to this, output voltage varies. Output voltage is a measure of acceleration applied. Output voltage is a measure of acceleration applied. So, in these methods, in these techniques, in these techniques, we will measure acceleration. Okay. Any doubts? Any doubts for anyone? We may type in chat box also. No doubts. Okay. This is all for today. See you next class.